How many? How many? How many? How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. What did I get up to?
Hello, How Many listeners. This is part 2 of our Dallas Cowboys season wrap-up discussion, where we will be talking about the future and what to expect going into next year.
I just want to say this. There is no substitute for winning. We must win. We will win. Win is the name of the game.
Let's talk free agents. Mark, you had some ideas. Let's have you start leading off. What changes do you see this team needing to make?
Well, we've all been educated over the last 10 years that we're not about to go out and get Devontae Adams and Tyrann Mathieu, right, in free agency. So we've all just been pretty critical for the last 25 minutes about the front office. I don't mind at all the way that Stephen has been managing free agency. I don't mind at all the fact that every other year we seem to end up with 3 or 4 comp picks. I think that's a good thing. You've got to be careful not to overvalue them. I think we're doing what is acknowledged as being a way to be successful in the NFL over a long period of time, which is draft really well, keep the best ones, and let some of them walk for good comp picks. That's good. What we're not being probably is bold enough then, this is where the Cincinnati Bengals can really teach us a lesson, is that 2 years ago, they realized we were actually going to have to invest in free agency. They were even more careful than the Cowboys had been in free agency over the last 10 years. They realized it was getting them nowhere. So I would like to see us being a bit bolder in the free agent players that we bring in without breaking the bank. And this is not the year to be breaking the bank, but there are some players out there that I'd like to see coming in. So I've got 4 or 5 players. So Folorunso Fatakusi, nose tackle. He's at the very top of my list. I think he would be a great addition, shouldn't break the bank for 2 years. Bring him in, plug him in at nose tackle. Really great way to stop the run. I feel like we're going to lose Jaron Kearse. I'd love to keep him. He's probably at the very top of my list of who we keep. But if we have to lose him, you've got Marcus May, Jordan Whitehead, Justin Reed, Terrell Edmonds, all available probably on a 1 year in the same way that we brought in Hooker and Kearse. Prove it. They've been injured. They've had time out of the starting team. I'd like to see any one of those come in. And then just a couple of names on the offensive line. I think Nzeki is done probably rightly. Ben Jones, center, Trent Brown or Morgan Moses, tackle, and Alex Kappa, who I really like, and Alex Kappa would come in as a starting left guard. All of those players. So that's my kind of 5 or 6 outside free agents to think about bringing in. They would all still follow the Stephen Jones model, which, as I say, I'm a fan of. I think they'd all come in and compete immediately for starting reps. They'd all allow a player or 2 to leave. So if Fatikazi comes in, then Watkins or Urban can go. If you bring in one of those safeties, then the loss of Hooker and Kearse and KZ is not quite so bad. I'd love to think we're keeping one of those. And if you bring in one of those offensive line guys, particularly Kappa, then obviously you actually get better at offensive line. You can let Colin Williams go. I mean, he's gone, and get stronger there. And in terms of who do I think we absolutely must keep in free agency, Andy Gregory, I'd like to see stay. Van Der Esch, Kearse. I think keeping those 3 starters means you don't lose those starting reps on defense. I'd like to see them stay. I'm not particularly tied to anyone else. I have a soft spot for Brent Urban. Seems like a really great guy. We started 5-1 in the 6 games that he played, and we finished 7-5 without him. That's no coincidence. Our run defense game got worse when we lost him. So Brent Urban would be a good one to bring back. Connor Williams is gone correctly. If it's a choice of cutting Amari Cooper or signing Michael Gallup, you have to keep Amari Cooper and let Michael Gallup walk. Although with the injury, we might be in a position to keep Michael Gallup. And then, I'd love to see Wilson and Turner come back. I would. I think Wilson and Turner give us something on special teams as well as wide receivers. And Dak seems to trust both of them. Kellen seems to be able to scheme Turner and Wilson open ad nauseum. And Dak likes throwing to them. There's very few drops coming from those guys. And Dak seems to be on a line with them. So I'd like to see them coming back. Absolutely must bring back. I think it's Gregory, Van Der Esch, and Kearse, and that's it.
Gary?
I don't disagree with what I just heard, but first of all, as far as our offensive free agents, I don't think any of them are must bring backs. Some of the wide receivers, it'd be nice. And I think there's a possibility that they do that. I am not in any way, shape, or form on any level concerned about the salary cap. We've got one more year of regular cap, and then the cap jumps. And the way contracts are structured anyway, you can give a guy a deal and you don't see any real money on the cap until 2 years out. And that's when the cap jumps are going to happen. Not concerned about that.
Athletic had a breakdown of a few simple things they could do to really free up a lot of money, right? There is some opportunity.
Like $80 million. So when I look at defensively, the guys that I'm most wanting to keep would be Curse, Urban, and Gregory. No, nobody is a must keep, and this team probably could use a few new faces, maybe shake some things up. But I think Curse is a really good fit with Dan Quinn. He's a guy that has not had a very good pro career so far after being a star in college at Clemson. I don't think he's going to go anywhere if the money is even close to right here. I think he stays here because he knows he's building something for himself, playing for Dan Quinn. If Dan Quinn had left, I'd say Curse is probably going to end up wherever Dan Quinn goes. The fact that Quinn is here, I think Curse stays here. I'd like to see Gregory stay, but as long as either Gregory or DeMarcus Lawrence are kept on the team, if you intend to cut Lawrence, which I hope they just restructure him, but if you intend to cut him, then you should keep Gregory. And if you are going to keep Lawrence in a restructure, then it'd be nice to keep Gregory. But if you don't, I get it. They've been so patient with him for so long, and he's now going to be able to play. They should try to see the fruits of their efforts there by keeping him around. The rest of those guys, they're guys. And that includes the long snapper and the punter, who are both fantastic. But honestly, at this point, I'm good with fresh blood. Young guys getting drafted. I'm good with young guys signing small contracts. They need to shake this thing up every once in a while. Everybody is so complacent because we always keep our guys. I'm with Mark. I like the way that Steven does things most of the time. There are things that I disagree with that, but I mean, nobody's going to be like, he's not me. He's not going to just sit there and do what I want. But at the end of the day, you draft well, you pay superstars, and if it's not a superstar, you let him walk. I look at Leighton Vander Esch. I like Leighton Vander Esch, and I think he's good in the role that they have for him or for Neal or for whoever Dan Quinn wants to be that other linebacker that plays while Micah is being the chess piece. I'm not willing to pay him $8 or $10 million because I know I can draft another guy to do his job. I think your cap gets really weird because you have a bunch of guys at the top making, 40 for Dak or 35 for Dak, whatever, and then a bunch of guys making 18, 20 million. And then a whole bunch of guys at the bottom of the roster making 2-3 million. That's the way it's going to be because I'm not paying guys 8 or 10 million to be good. I can get good out of a 2 million guy.
Not to be that guy, but got to get a better place kicker, right?
Harialahu or whatever his name is. Haralabob is the joke in Dallas. He started off the season great and then got cut so that they could bring back Zerline. But honestly, kickers are a dime a dozen. That whole thing with Cincinnati, everybody's like, look, see, they drafted a kicker. Well, maybe if they hadn't drafted a kicker, maybe if instead they had drafted an offensive guard, their future at quarterback wouldn't have gotten sacked 9 times in a game. You don't have to draft kickers. You just don't. There have been plenty of teams that, and we're one of them, that have had fantastic kickers that don't draft them. You don't draft them. The one that we did draft, it didn't work at all. Nobody drafts them. It's rare. That's the reason that we talk about it, because nobody does it. So when somebody does do it, it's like, holy crap. Did you remember the Tampa Bay guy when they drafted a guy in like the second round a few years ago because he was unbelievable in college? Total bust in the pros. You tell me you couldn't have done something with that second round pick?
Let's not forget, we are going for it on fourth down more and kicking fewer field goals.
If I lose a game because of my kicker, I didn't lose a game because of my kicker. I lost a game because my offense didn't score well enough. They didn't convert third downs into first downs, so they left it on fourth down for somebody else to take care of it. You've got 11 guys on the field on offense and 11 guys on the field on defense that are out there for 50 or 60 snaps. That guy gets like 2 or 3 snaps to make a change in this game. It ain't on the kicker. It's never on the kicker. Even if the kicker misses a 25-yard field goal with no time left on the clock that would have given you the win, it still isn't on the kicker because you gave up points that you shouldn't have given up, or you didn't score points that you should have scored on offense. One way or the other, you left it to the kicker, and it's your fault, not his.
Yeah, as far as free agents are concerned, I'm on the same page with the rest of the guys. I mean, Curse and Gregory are probably my two priorities. I think, Gregory's important because with salary cap, they're probably not bringing Lawrence back. So you don't want to lose. It all comes down to not wanting to lose two people that play the same position or basically.
They're not going to pay him $27 million, but I think that they can easily make him into an $18 million, $20 million guy easily.
Yeah, definitely. And like with Curse, he'd obviously be the ideal guy to bring back, but you can't lose him and Hooker. You got to bring at least one of them back. And on offense, Gallup and Turner are both free agents. And it's like, okay, so Gallup's injured and maybe that diminishes his market value. I don't know. Ideally, you'd rather have him back, but you can't lose them both. You want one of the two back. And as far as guys to bring in free agent wise, I think Mark made a good point. Steven's approach has been pretty solid. They don't go after overpriced big names. They try to be pretty prudent in who they bring in, and they seem like they find guys that really contribute without having to break the bank. If they lose Connor Williams, maybe a guy they can replace him with is, somebody like Corbett from the Rams. He's a guy that's not necessarily going to be a huge, massive contract, and that could be a decent upgrade on the line. So
he's a left guard.
They've shuffled the line around so much. That's the key. They really just need to be able to solidify what they're doing and not keep moving people around in different spots. But I think the line, one of the things that really they need to look out in the offseason there, I know this is a little off the free agent topic, but figure out what they've got with Biotish. Is he going to develop more? Does he need to bulk up? Not that he's been terrible, but he needs to be better.
And I think offensive line, is always a good thing to do. I made a joke several years ago that I didn't want them drafting anyone that weighed under 275 pounds. I don't care if it's offensive or defensive, like nothing but linemen. It's always good to have a better lineman. This is who you have. We're going to try to keep the people we can. We're going to try to get you new people. But then, all right, coaches, this is your team this year. These are the pieces. Go make it work. Junior?
When it comes to Van Der Esch, I don't think we'll bring him back, mainly because I think Jabril Cox is his replacement. I know he missed big parts of last season, but assuming he comes back healthy and ready to go, I think he will fill that role. For the receivers, I would actually try to get Gallup signed to a team-friendly deal, considering he just coming off of a major injury. But if he's looking to get a big contract, then I think I would bring Wilson back. I think he would be, obviously, probably from a financial standpoint, much cheaper. I did agree with Brent Urban and all of the sentiment there. I think the run defense was much better when Brent Urban was on the field, and especially when we had to start relying on Tristan Hill. I think he was opening up so many gaps for the other offense's run game, because he's just a very undisciplined defensive tackle, and he is part of one of the worst, I'd say, drafts we had overall. I definitely would want to try and prioritize him. I agree with the thoughts on Jaron Curse. I think he is kind of a diamond in the rough of some of the free agents that we brought in for safety, and he is somebody I'd want to keep. I'd also want to bring Anger back. I think he is a big difference maker when it comes to field position. I think we should really prioritize him, because I remember prior to him, the turnstile of punters we've brought in that were just very ineffective and were costing us yardage and costing us field position. And having somebody like Anger that can flip the field like that, I think is a major component to the team's success. Now, when it comes to the defensive ends, I don't prioritize Randy Gregory as much, because first of all, I think he is going to command a big deal. But as we've seen, he's missed pieces of the season during his tenure here. And I also think that Parsons is going to be more involved with pass downs and be part of the pass rush. If we were to lose somebody, I think Gregory would be the one to go, and have Lawrence and Parsons as your primary pass rushers. We could probably bring back Dorrance Armstrong on a team-friendly, low cap impact deal. And I think he could play, the first and second down with Parsons sliding into a pass rushing position to kind of bring that pressure and make up for the loss of Randy Gregory without it having a negative impact on the cap. And something I think we're not prioritizing here is Dalton Schultz. We signed Blake Jarwin to a pretty decent contract, and he has been injured the last 2 seasons. And Dalton Schultz has pretty sure hands, but more than anything, he has been, reliable. He hasn't been injured. He's been out there when we needed him, and he's been Dak's really go-to when he can't find anybody open. He's kind of a younger, faster Jason Witten during Jason Witten's last, hurrah with the team. If it was me, I would try and bring him back. I just don't think
pay
that
him $14
Jarwin.
million a year.
I would consider it, especially if we're saying that
no.
the cap is not as important as we think it is. I would.
I wouldn't pay that guy.
Very good year to draft tight ends. It's a very, very good year to draft tight ends. I'll
and
give
he
you
was
five tight ends in the fourth round that we can.
And
just
he was
use to replace Dalton.
I agree with what you're saying, but I think somebody that Dak trusts and has always been out there and uninjured.
I don't care.
I think it makes a difference in my opinion.
I don't care. And I'd tell Dak that to his face. Trust somebody else. What'd you win with him? You didn't win anything with him. Did the Rams have him? They won the Super Bowl.
It just felt like he was always in position to try and move the chains.
But you know why?
I understand the defense was.
If you're the defense and you're
allowing it.
There's Amari Cooper and there's CeeDee Lamb, and I've got to make sure I take care of these guys. Then the stuff to the tight end is going to be the easy stuff. He is so easily replaceable. They absolutely should replace him. Take that third round comp pick that they're going to get out of it because they're going to get a 3. The market value on him is like $12 million. It's crazy. Let him go get his $12 million somewhere else. He's so easily replaced. There are veteran tight ends that you can sign that can do the same thing that he did that are going to cost you $3-4 million instead of 14. He is the lowest of all of everybody on that list. He's the last one I want because I know what he's going to get. Now, if we're just prioritizing and there is no salary cap, then yeah, I would like to have him back. But there's no way I pay that guy what he's going to get.
I hear what you're saying, Gary, and I think you're right. I love the romance of Aikman, Novacek, Romo, Witten. I love that dynamic of a quarterback and a tight end that just is there.
Let me ask you a question on that.
Yeah.
Jesse. Which one of those is better, Aikman, Novacek, or Romo, Witten?
I would go Aikman, Novacek because they won Super Bowls.
Because they won. It'll be all the romance in the world you want, and you can just take it and it'll be Dak and fill in the blank. If they have rings, it'll matter. If they don't, it won't.
I think Blake Jarwin can be that tight end, by the way. You look at what the Cowboys have done to keep him. When he was on the practice squad, I think it was the Eagles tried to steal him off the practice squad. And we immediately bumped him up to the main 53 and extended him. They really, really like Blake Jarwin. He doesn't care for blocking. Fine, put Sean McKeon or re-bring Jeremy Sprinkle back.
Yeah.
Let them block. Blake Jarwin can really, really, really make a difference. And we have already paid him.
I think theoretically you're right. It's just that he hasn't been on the field enough to warrant relying on him. Like if we could let Schultz go and say, okay, Jarwin is just going to replace him, I would be good with it if I knew he was going to be on the field. But the last 2 years, he's barely been on the field, which is why Schultz is going to get this contract because he has been the one that has taken all the stats that Jarwin should have had.
I mean, if you go back and look, though, Jarwin was on the field before he got paid. Being on the field up until you get paid doesn't mean much if you're not on the field afterwards. But I don't want either one of them. I would cut Jarwin to save money, and I would let Schultz go, and I'll take the comp pick, and I'll go out and I'll draft a guy in the 3rd or 4th round this year, and I'll sign a veteran that I feel good about running seam routes and picking up first downs on that little rollout quarterback tight end option play. I can find guys that can do that all day long that don't need $14 million a year because that $14 million needs to be spent at fixing the center position, fixing left guard, fixing left tackle, fixing right tackle, making sure that I've got a pass rush, making sure that I've got a safety. There are so many key components. And if you've ever listened to guys talk about the guys that get paid and the reason they get paid, left tackles get paid, corners get paid, quarterbacks get paid. You've never heard anybody say tight ends get paid. If he's special, keep him. If he's not special, you don't. And he's not special. He's not Gronk. He's not Kelsey. He's not any of those guys.
I did see that O.J. Howard is a free agent.
That dude's an athlete.
Very interested there, yeah.
But he's also been another person that's been hurt.
Sure, but that's why you get him cheap.
I guess I just value somebody being in the right position that can reliably catch the ball because I have seen tight ends come through here that weren't that. And I don't think they just grow on trees as much as we all think it is.
Money to somebody that's not. You can't do it. What you're basically advocating to me, is Zeke. I'm overpaying somebody because of this idea that this is what I need. And the truth is, overpaying is a bad thing.
Honestly, I love consistency, and I wish there was some more consistency bringing players back. I think it can only help quarterbacks, but Gary's right. Yet, like a player of Dak's stature He has to find ways to get other people open. I like Dalton Schultz. I've enjoyed watching him for a couple of years. But I guess if you need Dalton Schultz to get 7 yards, he'll get you 7 yards. If you need Dalton Schultz to get you 15 yards, he'll get you 7 yards.
And that's the other thing about Dak is I can tell him. So whenever Dak was wanting his contract, and they said, well, it's going to be $40 million. And somebody says, well, the Cowboys are going to tell him, look, I can't pay you $40 million. I've got other guys that I've got to give money to. And over, I heard the media say, the players will tell you, that's not my concern. Well, if your market's 40 and you get 40, now you got 40. Guess what? Now you can't have your $12 million tight end because you got 40. So if that makes you uncomfortable, you pay him because you're going to keep your money and I'm going to let him go and I'm going to draft somebody else. And you just have to adjust. That's why you got that money. Yeah. If you want to be a $20 million quarterback and tell me which guys I have to keep to make you happy, we can do that. But you didn't want that. You wanted the other. So this is what you get. Literally, I can't have 5, 10 million, 12 million, $15 million offensive linemen and a $40 million quarterback and a $19 million running back and 3 $20 million wide receivers and a $15 million tight end. I have already gone over the cap and I haven't even filled out all of my starters on offense.
It's good timing. We're having this conversation just randomly for 15 minutes about tight ends. I literally just finished looking at tight ends in the draft today. I'm sure we will cover off draft at some point in the future, but Charlie Kolar, Jelani Woods, Cole Turner, and Jake Ferguson are names to watch out because they look like Cowboys tight ends. There'll be tight ends that go before those guys, but Charlie Kolar and Jelani Woods, to me, they look like Cowboys tight ends.
I guess just agree to disagree. Like I said, I've seen the Gavin Escobars, James Hanna's, Marty B's, Anthony Fasano's come through here that we've drafted that did not put the numbers up that Dalton Schultz did.
Fasano was great in Miami. You saw a bunch of guys playing behind Jason Witten who demanded every snap and every touch at tight end. I love Jason Witten, but those stories came out from a lot of different guys. That's not an unknown thing. If it was one tight end on the field, it was Jason Witten. If it was two, now you can go out on the field. But he's still the number one option in every play because Fasano left here and had a good career. And that doesn't mean you're going to hit on every draft pick, but you didn't know who Blake Jarwin was when they got him from Oklahoma State. None of us knew who Dalton Schultz was when they got him from Stanford. Those were not names until they came here, and Schultz only became a name because Jarwin got hurt, because before that, we all loved Jarwin. This team is good at certain things. They're pretty good at finding offensive linemen. They're pretty good at finding tight ends. They're pretty good at finding wide receivers, even guys like Gallup, not just the high-end guys. They're pretty good at certain things. And we've all made fun of them for being bad at other things, like they don't seem to be able to find pass rushers. They won't even try to find a safety. But one of the things that they're good at is finding tight ends. This team hasn't been without a tight end. It had Witten, and then it moved on from Witten to Blake Jarwin, and it moved on from Jarwin to Schultz, and it'll move on from this one too.
Very nice. I don't mean this cynically. I want you guys to hold me accountable. I'm going to enjoy next season. Every game, I will live and die with every play. I will enjoy. I will be happy when they win, and I will be sad when they lose. But if someone comes to me predictions, I can't predict anything because this team, if you force me to predict, they're not going to make the playoffs. I'm doing the Ken Schaefer. I'm going to be an optimist and then be pleasantly surprised. That doesn't make me a bad fan. I've seen that a lot of Twitter. Well, if you don't care, then get off the timeline. You're not a real Cowboy fan. I can be a real Cowboy fan and think they suck, And so I'm going to enjoy the journey. But my thought right now is, after 26 years, it's not time for me to quit saying, oh, yeah, they're going to make the NFC Championship game. I can't even imagine anything but just enjoying the journey. And I'm going to try not to drink the Kool-Aid or buy the hype. I don't want to get fooled again. Bob, any final thoughts?
I totally get where you're coming from on that. I've thought a lot about when we get to that phase before next season, when we're doing predictions. They obviously have talent. They are obviously a good, quote unquote, good team. Beyond that, I just don't know. Regular season record is not an indicator of success. All regular season record is put you in position to have playoff success. And like Gary mentioned earlier, the Bengals were 10-7, but they figured out how to grind out wins and they figured out how to succeed in the playoffs. So I'd much rather be 10-7 and go to the Super Bowl than be 12-5 and get out in the first round. Regular season record doesn't even matter to me anymore. I'm like you. I'm going to enjoy the wins, but I'm only going to really be completely interested in what happens when the postseason gets here, if they even make it. But I think they should be good enough to make it in this division. They really kind of need the competition to upgrade in the NFC East. And that's counterintuitive because for my whole life, I've always wanted nothing but failure on all the other teams in the division and don't want the Eagles to hit on those picks and all that. But going 6-0 against no competition's not doing them any favors.
Junior?
It's just like you said. I don't think this team is going to suck next year. I think they will be about as good as they were last year. Obviously, free agency, the draft are all going to be factors into one way or another how good they are, how good the division is. But as of right now, I think this team is still going to win the division next year. I think that should really be treated with indifference at this point. I don't think Cowboy fans should care if they win the division. I think they need to care what happens when the playoffs start. So in my opinion, whatever they do in the regular season, if they win the division, if they make the playoffs, you shouldn't give a damn until we see what they do in the postseason. And if they can't do any better than getting out of the first round, the same mindset should get followed into the next year. Till either they get so bad that they have the number one pick and are able to dominate a draft, I think it's going to be the same cycle over and over again. And I don't think that will happen during Dak's tenure. I think that the front office will put a team good enough around Dak to win the division and to make the playoffs. But it would require a bottom out for an entire rebuild to happen. And that may be the point where we can start seeing some kind of optimism that would go above and beyond what we're seeing right now. But like I said, free agency, the draft could change things. Maybe we'll get another Micah Parsons fall in our lap, and that will make the defense even better. Maybe we'll run into teams that have, injuries at the time that we play them in the postseason, and we'll work our way through just based on, pure luck at times. The team we played in the first round had a lot to do with our failure in the postseason, because that ended up being a team that made it to the NFC Championship and almost to the Super Bowl. Had we played, the Rams, had we played any of the other teams in the wild card, we may have been the ones that had the Cincinnati run. So a lot of who you end up playing in the postseason factors into it. But like I said, indifference until we get to the postseason.
Gary?
I think Junior just really nailed it. I don't know if I'm indifferent. I'm with Jesse in that I enjoy regular season games, the ups and the downs, and I like the roller coaster ride. But when we get to the playoffs, matchup is important. I think Junior nailed that. The one team I've fought with people that are even listening to us or talking with us right now, I fought that was the wrong team. We did not want the Niners. They are built exactly like what we don't want to see. That is a team that is tough as hell on defense. And on offense, they grind it out. And they used that formula to beat the Rams twice during the regular season last year and then almost beat them in the playoffs. That team took everybody to the brink. You were going to play a tight, tough physical game against them, and that's not what we wanted. We would have been better off facing the Bucs, Rams. It doesn't make any difference. Anybody but the Niners were the worst choice for us. So that ended up being an unfortunate draw, and maybe things could have been different. And maybe this team, if they win a playoff game, they start feeling a little good, and that confidence helps them out. But it didn't work out that way. Next year's going to be the same thing. It's no excuses. I don't care about any of the outside noise. I don't care about injuries. I don't care who we lose in free agency. I don't care who we don't take in the draft that everybody thinks is wrong. I don't care about any of it. You've paid too many guys on this team. There are too many stars on this team that love to run their mouth. I'm done with hearing it. Go out there and do it or shut up.
Gary, yes, we may have had the luck of a bad draw, but then be better.
Absolutely.
If you get no excuses, right? Rest in peace, Big Dave Conlon, but he said it's the playoffs. It's not supposed to be easy. Mark, finish us up.
Did none of you see the hype video on DallasCowboys.com? Because we're going 17-0 and walking into the Super Bowl. I mean, it looked like they told a 15-year-old intern to just have a go and put something out on social media.
It did make me mad. Seeing that went just like, no, this is the wrong time to do this. Rah, rah, rah. You
do that after you've literally burnt the organization down and fired everybody.
Yeah.
That's when you do that. It was pathetic. And the thing that made me equally mad and laugh out loud, the message on Twitter that they launched it with was kind of new beginning, new mindset, new approach, right? Like one of the first players you see, no disrespect to him, one of the first players you see in this hype video is Darian Thompson. We're rebuilding around Darian Thompson. We're rebuilding around a free agent safety that hardly makes it onto even the special teams unit. It was pathetic. It was the wrong timing. It was the wrong message. It was awful. But we're going 17-0. There's a hype video. It proves it.
You just want that, the whole idea of be hungry, be aggressive, you know?
Do you know what I would have done? My hype video would have been Stephen Jones and Dak Prescott sitting on a stool with a black background looking directly into the camera going, this will not happen again. See you in 3 months. Thank you. That's my hype video.
You know, Chris and I both got with Parsons says, all I'm going to remember about this year is we lost in the first round. You know, I mean, if I would have had, I just was so disappointed that we lost in the first round. Cowboy fans, I promise you, I'm going to be at the weight room working, the whiteboard filled with things like we are working every moment to give a better season.
I would even have done that. I would have taken like maybe 4 or 5 seconds of clips of the guys walking off the field in San Francisco. And then I would have played that clip of Micah Parsons say, all I'm going to remember is losing in the first round. Yeah, and that's it. My whole hot video is 8 seconds. Done.
Yeah. Closing thoughts. We spoke about this just before we started recording. 2 people that write a lot and really well about the Cowboys. And so Bob Sturm had an article on Athletic a little while ago that did kind of all go badly, right? And basically it finished with nothing changes because nothing changes, which I thought was kind of a warning for, are we about to regress to the mean and have a 8-9 season? David Hellman on DallasCowboys.com was asked on kind of the mailbag thing that they do the other day about, is there a trend? Is there something that we can see that says, here's who's going to win the Super Bowl? Here's how you win the Super Bowl. And his answer was very, very good. So basically, no, there are many different ways to win the Super Bowl. It trends towards the teams that are prepared to be bolder, that are prepared to be braver and do something different and have a front office that's prepared to do something bold and try to instigate something different. And I like that. When I think about next year, I think we'll win the division because we're dealing with 3 teams in our division who are very, very bad football teams. And it takes more than one free agency and draft cycle to fix that. They're really quite broken. They're dealing with new coaching staffs, dealing with new GMs. If we don't win the division next year, something awfully, awfully bad has happened. Will we go 12-5? I don't know. Maybe it'll be a 10-7. Maybe it'll be an 11-6. But I do think we end up making the playoffs. Junior nailed this. We should be entirely indifferent to that. We're the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, we've just won the division. Of course, we've just made the playoffs. Now let's go win 4 more games. That's the point at which people need to start being not indifferent. That's the point that it all matters. So I think we make the playoffs. Anything short of that, and things are bad.
So if you want more insightful commentary like that, I believe there's a new podcast available, isn't there?
A new podcast called Fix This Rich.
Fix this, Rich.
Ironically enough, maybe we need to take a look at the name of the news about Rich has come out, or maybe not. Maybe that's why we keep it. But yeah, it's Mark and I discussing. It's mostly going to be Cowboys related. We may venture into a little bit of baseball or soccer here and there, but it's primarily going to be Cowboys related. Lots of off-season talk. So if you like draft talk, free agency talk, free agents about specific players and things like that, you're certainly welcome to come give us a listen. The Twitter handle is @fix_pod, and you can just find us at Fix This Rich.
Gary and I, not only being very passionate Cowboys fans, are also pretty passionate about 2 very different Major League Baseball teams and 2 very different English Premier League teams as well. So I'm sure those things will find their way into the podcast as well.
Yeah. We're together on football, but very apart on baseball and soccer.
And I'm sure we'll get a little Mavs talk.
I'll probably try to bring him into that. He's not a big basketball guy, so that might just mean me talking a lot to Mark about Luka.
I'm going to spend a year getting smarter on basketball.
Not only will this go out on your feed, we will do a special episode. I'm going to do it on my Set Listing Bruce feed. We're going to put it on the How Many feed. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to maybe guest hosting sometime. Doing guest spot. Yeah, that sounds great. Bob.
At Lukewarm Tallboy, Twitter and Instagram.
Gary?
At Travel_Cowboy on Twitter, and at Fix_pod for the other podcasts.
Mark?
I will promote Liverpool winning the League Cup final on Sunday of next week against, it's a team, I can't remember their name. They're a fairly inconsequential soccer team. They play in
MKD
1973 on Twitter.
And I am at Jesse Jackson DFW. You can hear me babble on about Bruce Springsteen and music on Set Listing Bruce. Mark is going to be joining me where he will do songs of your life. And Junior, if someone wants to reach us, how can they?
Well, you can reach me at Mexican_Junior on Twitter. You can reach the show at How Many Podcast on Twitter. You can send us an email, howmanypodcast@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page, YouTube channel. You can listen to all of our backlog of episodes, howmanypodcast.com.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, listeners. Be safe, be careful, and we will visit with you soon. Goodbye.